Day two. Ha! Y'all thought I was playing. I'm on it. I'm on it. Yesterday was liberating because I just got on here and rambled, and that felt good. Like it was just good momentum. I really didn't know what I was going to talk about today until I started putting the title in and reflecting on what I talked about yesterday. And I'm talking about the three P's today: perfectionism, perimenopause, and people pleasing. Maybe we could say that's the four P's because of the people pleasing, but I'm gonna go with three P's because I know I'm not the only one that these three things have had in a chokehold. When I was thinking about all the things that I spoke about yesterday, when I was really thinking about this idea of getting out of my own way, thinking about the therapeutic work that I've been doing, the intentional growth and healing that I have been doing in this phase of my life, it really does come down to those three things that have um, most impacted me in this last amount of time. So let's talk about the perfectionism first. um, Part of the reason why I work with high achieving Black women, why that's sort of been the focus for my private practice and my sort of offerings, is because that is me. Um, and when I say high achieving, I'm talking about the girlies who were in gifted and talented or at the top of their class, were designated as leaders in some way, shape, or form, were the go to person. They've been the role model, the standard set. Achievement through academics, career, success, checking all the boxes of the American dream, of home ownership, of investments, of marriage, all of those things. Um, Kids for some people, that's the achievement part. And although I am an outlier on some of those things, the emphasis on academic success, on achievement, on good grades, on going to college, getting the degrees, having the right career, all of that stuff has really anchored a big part of my identity. And there's a lot of ego invested in that. It wasn't until, and it was so normalized for me growing up, like this was just the way that I was supposed to be. It helps that I am highly intelligent. I was a precocious reader. I was reading by four. Um, like the basic C spot, run those types of books, and was reading novels by the time I was like eight, right? So I used to read the encyclopedia for fun. School came easy to me, and I got a lot of reward for that. My mother was an educator as well, and so that also contributed to that. And so it wasn't until I was literally on internship, which is the last year of a doctoral program in counseling psychology or any applied psychology, where I heard the term perfectionism, as crazy as that sounds, and was listening to one of my supervisors, one of the other staff members in the counseling center, talk about it. And I was like, oh, I think that's me. Like, because it wasn't this thing that sat outside of me. It was just how I thought the world worked. And so for perfectionism, I'm talking about holding yourself to a standard that is unrealistic for a human being, for having the expectation that you have to be excellent in everything you do or you fail. There's no in between, it's black or white. That you have to have lofty goals, that you have to show up in the exact right way, know all the things all the time. That's the perfectionism, right? Have the answers, execute the solution, basically to be superhuman. And that is to me slightly different than the strong black woman schema that I've talked about and that I probably will talk about. But the perfectionism, because of the achievement, because of the focus on education and success, um, and I now know uh, a good healthy dose of the neurodivergence, all sort of like was just so seamless for me that it wasn't until it was named as this thing, as a concept that I had choice and control over, that I could see how there would be different ways to manage problem solving, challenges, getting tasks done. Like it was all or nothing for me. And I have been in recovery around perfectionism pretty much ever since then. um, Going into academia, right out of graduate school as a profession was a reflection of my perfectionism and people pleasing. The two go really hand in hand for me because the more I achieved, the more the perfectionism was reinforced. And the more the perfectionism was reinforced, the more the people pleasing came on board to anchor, orient my achievement. So at some point, I was living my life based on what I thought I should be doing, what I thought would make me look good, what I thought would make other people happy, what I thought was the right thing to do, and then holding myself to a standard of excellence, achievement, expectations around that, that really was devoid of a lot of what I really wanted, who I really wanted to be. And that kept me in a really toxic environment for a long time. I'm not kidding when I say I'm still recovering from the trauma of graduate school and academia. And the trauma was the interpersonal trauma. The trauma was the abandonment of self. The trauma was the tripling, quadrupling down on the perfectionism and allowing the people pleasing to go unchecked. Um, when you go into academia, if you're on a tenure track, you have that means that you are under a contract that gets a 6-year time span for you to produce enough peer reviewed publications, achieve enough grant funding, have successful teaching, even though that's really not important in academia, even though you would think it is. But you have to check these boxes, and then your credentials, your materials are reviewed across multiple levels, and then they say you've met the standard, and we promote you to from assistant professor to associate professor, and we give you tenure, meaning you've done enough hard work that you have job security, right? That's pretty much the old standard. Things have changed significantly. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but when I was in the tenure track role, that's what that was. There is a period of time around the third year of me being in a tenure track role that I knew I didn't want to be there. Where I knew like this is not doing it for me. Like, but I couldn't let myself say that out loud because in graduate school, I got so much encouragement, so much feedback that I should go into academia. And I was so brilliant. And I asked these really amazing questions. And we need people like you in academia. And if you know anything about academia, or if you know anything about the PhD landscape in this country, like only about 3% of the population has a PhD. And imagine what percentage of that is Black women. And then imagine what percentage of that is Black women that actually go into academia. And so for me to hear from these people that I respected and admired and who I had been, um, my ego had been reinforced by doing things that made them think good things about me, the people pleasing. My perfectionism, my people pleasing, I allowed their voices to guide me and to say, I'm going to go into academia. And then ego, remember I talked about ego last time? The ego is real because I know I'm that shit. I know I'm smart. I know I'm intelligent. Right? And achievement feels good. I like being lauded. I like the note. I like the acknowledgement, right? I'm not going to lie about that part. But I let that dictate my career decisions at a really pivotal point in my life. So I got my PhD at age 27. I didn't get a tenure track position straight out of graduate school. That was devastating. I'll tell that story another day. So, but because I had built good relationships, I was able to sort of come up with a job, right? I was doing some teaching, I was doing some work in the counseling center, so like a couple part-time things, but it was all temporary. And the temporary nature felt very threatening to me, right? I was like, how am I pay these bills? Like, I need a job. I'm supposed to have like, I got the degree. Now I'm moving to the career. I'm supposed to have it. And so I got this opportunity to get a tenure track position, and I did it. I was at one institution for 2 years. They were the worst 2 years of my life, um, up until that point. Ac- Uh, and then because of the achievement and the people pleasing, I was like, well, I can't leave academia without proving that I can do this. And this environment wasn't the right place. So I got another position, the University of Houston, and that's where I spent the majority of my career. And so about 2 years in at the University of Houston, it was clear to me that I was miserable. Like I was foundering. Like I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm making it up. Nothing is that exciting to me. This stuff is hard. It's taking up a lot of time. The ADHD of it all. I don't do well with being self-governed. Really, I don't want to be. Um, I don't want to have a supervisor. I don't want to have a boss, but I also need structure, and I don't do that well for myself. And so I knew that I should have left, but I didn't because it would have been too much of a threat to my ego. I didn't feel like I had a good enough excuse. Hear that language? I didn't have a good enough excuse to leave something just because it was hard, just because I didn't want to do it. The perfectionism and the achievement orientation and the people pleasing didn't even allow me to consider what I might want from my life just because I wanted it. But I really invalidated my own autonomy about that because I had been so focused on other people's expectations, right? If you think about it, if you have gone to undergraduate, some graduate school, if you've gone and you have a career and you've had a promotion, you know there's a checklist, there's things you do, there's a syllabus, you get the grade, you have a course, you have a program that you are following, you check the boxes. That sort of external validation that you're doing the right things have been a significant part of my life. And so the idea for me to choose something else and not have a plan and not be able to justify it and not be able to tell my mom and my cousin and my aunt, like all of these women, these matriarchs in my life who I had let also dictate to me achievement and success, I felt like unless I had their permission, I couldn't leave. And I could only get their permission if I had a good enough reason, and me feeling not happy or displeased or just not fulfilled wasn't a good enough reason. Why are you gonna leave this good tenure track job to go do what? You don't have a plan? Like, how could you have a PhD at 27 and then at 31 decide I'm gonna do something different, right? You spent all this time in graduate school. I just couldn't, I couldn't do it. And so I stayed and I stayed for far, far, far too long. And that is the trauma, and that I entrenched myself in patterns and in toxic ways of being in relationship to myself, my own authenticity that facilitated self-abandonment, that allowed me to give greater credibility and weight to other people than myself. I wasted a lot of time. And that's not fair to say because I really do live with deep spiritual belief that everything happens in a divine order and that everything in life is either a lesson or a blessing. And so that's not fair for me to say I wasted a lot of time. But do you see how that perfectionism and achievement comes up? How it's still programmed in there, that I consciously don't believe that. My values are not in line with that. But that internalized expectation, it shows up, right? And then let's add on the other P, the perimenopause. So I I got pregnant at 36. I delivered my child at 37 years old. Um, I probably was in perimenopause when I got pregnant. I probably was already in the phase of perimenopause, but we didn't know as much back then as we do now. I'm so grateful. In some ways, I'm so grateful for the internet and people like speaking up. Like, it is amazing to me how significant this phase of life is for people assigned female at birth, people um, with ovaries and uteri as reproductive organs. Like, this hormonal journey is so significant of an impact on all aspects of our lives, and that nobody was talking about it. Like, when I think about the fact that my mother, my aunt, my grandmother, my even my older cousins, not nobody talked about no perimenopause, menopause, like nothing. And so I now know I was probably going through it then, and then I got pregnant. And so think about that. Think about the hormone cascade and all the shifts that happen hormonally, physiologically for women during pregnancy, and then perimenopause. And so um, I didn't have a healthy pregnancy. I had preeclampsia. My um, daughter was born preterm. She was extremely low birth weight. It was really scary. And I was completely unprepared, totally caught off guard. And the recovery from that was also significant for me. And so I reached burnout with academia. Surprise, surprise. So I've always been a full time single parent. And when I say full time, it means like there's no shared custody, there's no visitation. Like it's actually been years since my daughter has even talked to her father, right? And again, I'm an only child. Um, and I don't have cousins my age. My mom has passed away. My aunt's passed. Like, I don't have elders in my life anymore. So even when I was raising my daughter, we lived close to my family, but they lived in another state. And so I was doing so much heavy lifting in managing whatever was going on with my body and not even knowing all the things that impact being undiagnosed with the ADHD, all the people pleasing, all the perfectionism, taking care of my child, who is not an easy child, who is not an easy child, all by myself. And the impact of all of that, I feel like I'm still recovering from. Um, my symptoms around perimenopause have only gotten more intense. And so, coming off the heels, so let me give you the full trajectory, right? So, the academia thing, I actually got tenure. I had to fight for it. That happens also a lot with Black women, but I got it. So my ego was really affirmed, right? Almost as soon as I got tenure, the dean of the college was like, let's meet. And he started talking to me about going up for full. I was like, bitch, I literally just got this one. Why are we like, we're already talking about the next thing? And personally, for me, because I wasn't invested in the career as an academic, like most of my colleagues that are still in academia are, for me, the goal was to get tenure, to be able to say I did the thing that people said that I couldn't do. This Black girl from a single parent household whose father was drug addict and absent from her life, whose mom was working on like raising her middle class on a working class salary as a public school teacher, who is from the bottom in Baton Rouge, was the first person in her family to get a doctorate degree, to go into academia and do research about Black women and Black women's sexuality and racial identity, to do stuff that I felt that I had a lot of integrity around. For me, getting tenure was it. That I was like, check, like, bitch, I won. And then they started talking about full, and I was like, I just want to. I did the thing. Like, I'm good to be associate forever. That feels good enough for me. But the environment was such that that wasn't allowed. And so the all of that came together. And so finally in 2019, um, I left. There was a period of time for about a year and a half before I finally like said I was done with academia and just left. That I would get up in the morning, get myself together, get my daughter together, drop her off at school, breakfast, coffee, all the things, drop her off at school, drive to work, and I would sit in the parking lot and cry my face off at times. And then get it together, get out of the car and walk across campus like everything was okay, right? And the question that kept coming up for me over and over and over and over again, and louder and more consistent and frequent was, is this it? Is this really all? Is this it? Like this is the quality of life you're gonna accept? This can't be it. You did all of this stuff. You've done all of these things. You have all of this status, all this achievement, all of these resources, and you're miserable. You don't think you deserve more than that? And then the question became, what kind of woman are you modeling to your daughter? You tell her that she's amazing and she can do all of these things and she can like be whoever she wants, like all of that stuff. And she's black girl magic and like to advocate for herself and to show up and to trust herself and to not let anybody make her feel small. Like all these things you're telling her, and you over here making yourself feel small. Like, what are we doing? And I don't know what shifted or what happened. I know what happened was in the summer of 2019, I woke up one day and I said, I'm done. This is it. Let me go find me another job. It just was clear as day. There was no angst. There was no second guessing. It was pure peace. It was a pure peace. And then I got another job and I left academia in the middle of the semester. I stand on that with a sense of pride. And then the pandemic happened. And things were good for me mentally, emotionally for the most part. But it was the pandemic and I was home with my daughter and trying to do this career. And then things fell apart at my job. That's another story for another day about institutional racism and Black women in the workplace. And I had to choose me again. And I decided to enter entrepreneurship full time. And even that was hard to say. Like I knew I was going to do it, but I kept telling people, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking about going to work. Like I kept presenting it as I think I might, because the people pleasing was still there. The perfectionism was still there. At another level, with far less angst and in a shorter amount of time, but that same internal block of I don't have a good enough reason to justify going to work for myself because of the people pleasing and the perfectionism, right? And so it took me a while. At this point, I am working with my therapist and I'm doing a lot of work, like a lot of deep work, recovery work, processing, changing my relationships, changing my relationship with my mother, changing my relationship with my family, setting different boundaries, honoring my emotions, all of this stuff, right? And then my mom passed away completely unexpectedly. It was like, it literally felt like the earth just dropped out from underneath me. Just, what is reality? And I still have moments. I still have moments. 3 years later, not quite 3 full years later, 2+ years later, this morning was one of them, where I just woke up angry. Like, how dare you leave me here? And all of this shit, the world is on fire. I'm still raising this girl by myself, and it ain't getting no easier. I still need you. I still need guidance. We were in such a beautiful place in our relationship. I've worked through my people pleasing. We have great boundaries. We have great communication, and you done took your ass on and left me here. And in the midst of all of that, this hormonal cascade. So grief, the perimenopause, the people pleasing, and the perfectionism have had me spun up looking crazy and all types of things. So then I spent the last couple of years just scrambling, trying to figure it out. And I remember right after my mom passed, that was one of the hardest times because of that perfectionism and the achievement. Um, I didn't know what to do in my grief. Like like I kept asking people, folks that had experienced the loss of a parent, but what do you do? But what am I supposed to do? And I meant that quite literally. Like I get up every day and I feel so lost and so disoriented. What am I supposed to do? Like, and trying to still. So then I went back to work. I started seeing clients and I did a brain spotting training and I like tried to do the things because that's what you're supposed to do. Like, you're supposed to keep going. Like, people don't just grieve, people go back to work, people do things. People pleasing, perfectionism, all these external expectations and beliefs. And I remember, and I come back to this so often, my therapist said, Dr. Coleman, you've never had to heal your perfectionism around this. Because I was like, how am I back here? Like, I did all of this work. I thought I worked through all of this shit. How am I back here? And she was like, you never had to heal around this level of loss. So those patterns are coming back up, and that's okay. So it's an ongoing process. The perimenopause of it all is my sleep has been disrupted. I'm gonna run y'all through all of my perimenopause symptoms. It first started with joint pain. That's the thing that was most noticeable to me. Um, that I was like, something is going on. Like, what is this? Right. So I've had joint pain, especially like in my knees, like knees just like fully arthritic. Like, what the hell is happening? Um, Frozen shoulder. Didn't know what that was. Like, just woke up one day and couldn't lift this arm. Like, it would get here and just stop. Frozen shoulder. The hair thinning. My hair thinning. When I tell y'all, like, I've always had hair. Always a lot of hair. Thick. Like, never had hair issues. I'd had relaxers, straightening comb, locks of all different kind, loose, all the things. Head full of hair, thick hair. I started losing my hair, locks falling out. What the fuck? Skin just dry. No matter, I mean, all the shea butter, coconut oil with oil rubbing down, just dry. Metallic taste, weird taste in my mouth. The hell. I had the itchy ears. Thank God that went away. What? Oh, uh, 2 years ago. So this was after my mom had passed. Was this just last year? Yes, last year. Just having like anxiety, like feeling like I'm about to have a panic attack, like just, and feeling like I'm gonna weep for no reason, and not anything attached to grief or not anything attached to like real tangible worries. Just feeling like emotionally, like, oh, what is happening? ADHD could not hold a thought in my head. Like, short term memory, what? Working memory, what? Brain fog, lack of sleep, like so much sleep disruption, feeling tired and wired at the same time. Part of that is that cortisol stuff too. Um, I told you, low, like lack of sex drive, um, belly weight, changes in my insulin, um, changes in my cholesterol. Um, I'm probably forgetting some. If heart palpitations, like having some cardiac issues. Then the last thing recently has been high blood pressure. What the whole hell? And I'm out here trying to show up on social media and talk about pleasure and joy. And I've been fighting for my life over here. Fighting for my life. I still have joy, obviously, right? That is who I am. I'm gonna find a laugh. I'm gonna make a little jokey joke. And there are real life um, challenges, like real life constraints around being able to have constant, fluid, effortless access to pleasure and joy. I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. I would love to hear what have been your experiences around perfectionism, people pleasing, perimenopause of it all. Because I know that what I've shared resonates with you in some way, shape, or form. And I'm really curious to know what are some things that you have done in your life to move past it, to work through it, to push back against it. Um, Therapy has been huge for me, and also my spiritual practice, a meditation practice, really being attuned to my body, slowing down, um, and intentionally attending to my nervous system. Brain spotting in my therapeutic practice has been a major, major game changer for me. Um, and like a daily choice to keep moving forward in a way that allows me to have as much ease and joy and um and pleasure and like um alignment in my life, right? A daily chore. What's your experience? Do the three P's show up for you? Um and how? And what we gonna do about it? Especially in the context of this crazy, crazy ass world we're living in. All right. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for joining in. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Let's get this thing going. Let's give me partner status so I can come here and continue to run my mouth and say things that we need to hear so that we can all get better. How about that? All right. Peace, y'all.